In today's episode, you better bring back every box of candy you don't sell. I'll get right on that, Chief. You can't continue working from home because you go idle and chat too often. Men can't wear shorts but skirts are okay? Sure, I'll go home and change. So let's get started. You better bring back every box of candy you don't sell. I'll get right on that, Chief. This happened to me in the early 90s. In the lovely sunny state of Arizona, as a 13 to 15-year-old I spent my summers selling candy and other items, door to door in the 122-degree heat for a man we'll call Big Al. This guy was a character. Imagine a fat, unshaven AXL Rose, AXL Rose, with a ponytail of red and graying hair, wearing glasses, and a hat that says Pissin' Nissan because he always buys American. He was a walking caricature. I loved the gung-ho Americana, but didn't like his unscrupulous nature, if you will. Besides being an obvious como, that is another story for later, but he had raunchy conversations about his genitalia ad nauseum with the girls that rode with us and sold candy. There was always this one girl who was always the last to be dropped off, and mysteriously she was dropped off alone despite girls needing to pair up. This was just a new level of creepy. He gave us each a box of crappy things to sell for $5 a pop, in 1992, and we got a $1 commission per box. He would pick us up at our residence, Select Suites? More like a trailer park, LOL, in his Impala-ish looking car. It was so wide that it looked like two side-by-side motorcycles in the dark. He would drive us to ritzy neighborhoods, and was super strict about the sales process, like we were going to screw him over or something. He would just drive an hour out of town, middle of the day, in some fancy place like a Watuki and drop one of us off in an apartment complex. We all fought to be the first dropped off. We would get out with our box, he would have us write then and there recount each and he would write it down, and he would always say you better bring back every box of candy you don't sell. I should have known that this dude was being extra, and this indicated that he was actually screwing us. So anyway, I'm doing this for a while now, and at least half the time he says the count says you should have had 4 Butterfinger bites, you only have 2 left so you sold 2, where's that money? I swear that I didn't have 4, I even counted them to him, but he insisted. So on a day where I sell 16 items, I make 11 instead of 16, and he pockets the remaining 69 bucks. Now if this happened once a month, or even once a week, I would understand, but it was getting to almost every day this guy was questioning at least 2 of our counts. He eventually moved off of changing my counts when he realized I was catching on, and then he picked on the newbies. I was still livid about this though. He was already making a killing by keeping 80% of the sales, so a missing box really killed our profit margin. Seriously, I was getting better at selling and eventually got to a point where each stop was 10 sales and would pull in close to 30 a night. That was a great pull for me, until one day when he said what he always says, so much so that we all say it along with him. Did I think of a way to truly comply while still making a profit? Now about this candy he was selling, it was cheap, dollar store before dollar stores were a thing type of items. It was literally a box of peanut brittle that you would pay no more than $2 for today. Please be excited for me, as this is the first time I've used italics in Reddit. Yay! I hatched a plan to truly bring him his candy, every last box. As we were driving around waiting to be dropped off, and all the kids started saying mine mine mine, like the seagulls in Finding Nemo, I let them all pop out where they wanted, because I knew what neighborhood I wanted, one that was adjacent to a grocery store. My wish came true, and I happened upon not just a Fry's, but a Walgreens right next to it, right across the street from some great-looking apartments. Al saves this for his favorites usually, but I begged him to take this one and really hoped I got the solo spot. I did. I got dropped off and automatically regretted not having money with me already. Some people are paycheck to paycheck, my dad and I grew up paycheck to Wednesday. Either way, I managed to get 2 people to buy in the first 10 minutes, meaning I had about an hour or so left, so I could take the money I made and bought some candy from the grocery store to sell. So I've got 25 bucks that I would only make $5 of, so I decide to take a risk and actually buy more candy than the money I would have, and if worst came to worst I would say I got shorted. Thankfully it didn't happen that way. I bought 20 bucks worth of candy from the Walgreens, peppermint patties in a row, peanut brittle, king-size candy bars, things I think that would sell that didn't have a lot of chocolate. We had dry ice, but we had to get creative with the placement, and the cold aspect of the candy was a huge selling point. My box was overflowing, and when I hit the remaining 90% of apartments it was a smorgasbord. You guys usually only have shit candy. I'll take this and that. I was selling all items for only 4 bucks, and made 80 bucks off of the 20 I spent pretty quick. I actually made 100 because some of my regulars demanded I take more money. I then went back and got more candy, last minute thought, to sell for my next stop. I know I was taking a risk doing this second one, I should have just stopped, but I just had to push. I picked up 10 more candies, the stuff that sold first, and loaded the box in a way where these weren't visible at first glance in the box, and I pocketed the non-chocolate items. So Al comes back on his chariot, making his usual mating call of Riku'ai, and then a brief pause, then a bunch of horn honks, to follow the cycle again. It was actually hilarious because for some reason his horn only worked while he was turning. This made for some hilarious scenarios. So I popped back in telling him I sold 5, more like 25, and he was seriously? This is why I give this one to the girls. Yeah, I know all about what you give to the girls, bro. And based on your unnecessarily graphic description, it's the dimensions of a beer can. Gross. I was going to argue, my favorite pastime, but I left it and waited to see where I got dropped off next. By the end of the night I sold 30 of my stuff that I bought, and 8 of his. I gave him back every box of his I didn't sell, and even gave him too much money, by 4 bucks, because I didn't do my math right. I still wound up with well over 100 that night, 5 times what I do on my best night. You can't continue working from home because you go idle and chat too often. As part of the plan to return to office post-COVID, my company has done a lot of redesignating of who can permanently work from home, who can hybrid, etc. I really wanted to work from home full-time. I hate the office with a burning passion. It's distracting, it's a long commute, there's no benefit to being there, so on and so forth. I'd just rather be at home. Well, when we thought May was going to go back to office time, they started giving out the new designations. I got designated as in office full-time. It made no sense to me. I work on a team of 8 people and each of us is in a different office somewhere in the country. I've literally never been to an in-person meeting or needed to do in-person work in 3 years at this company. Every single other person on my team got designated to work from home. So I brought it up with my boss and asked to work from home. When I started at this company and lived elsewhere, I got to work from home for 4 months before I moved, and the past 14 months during COVID have been at home, so 18 to 36 months at the company have been WFH. What I was told is that I go idle too often and chat to trust to work from home. Basically, we have a company-wide IM system that shows you as available, idle, or in a meeting. If you don't touch your keyboard for 5 minutes, you show as idle. So they decided to use this as a measure for who is working and who isn't. The thing is, like many people in many types of jobs, I don't have shit to do for a full 8 hours every single day. The amount of work I have to do on a typical day takes 3 to 5 hours of actual attention. There simply isn't something to do all the time. My performance numbers actually went up working from home. By all objective KPI numbers, I'm a better worker at home. In fact, in the KPIs that I don't flat out lead the team in, I come in second. There isn't work to do that I'm neglecting or procrastinating. When something comes up, I simply do it until it's done, or until I can't do any more due to waiting on someone else, then stop. And I've done that method long enough that my work queue stays empty, because I work to get my queue down to the point where when something comes up I can immediately address it and be done with it. But because I have other ways to spend my time and downtime instead of messing around online at my cube pretending to be working, meaning I show idle more often, I'm a worse worker apparently. I was told if it weren't for that they would let me work at home. So I wrote a 6-line PowerShell script that virtually inputs the period key every 4 minutes, that starts running every day at 8 AM and stops at 5 PM. So now I literally never go idle. I do the same amount of work and still read books, watch TV, and play video games on the side. But I have a shiny green check next to my name all day. Because of COVID complications, they eventually said no going back until after Labor Day. I just had a meeting with my boss and he said over this time they've noticed I go idle a lot less than I used to, so they're changing my designation to work from home, all because of a little icon in some software. This concludes my TED Talk on why low to middle level managers are the dumbest, most useless do-nothing positions in all of corporate America. Men can't wear shorts but skirts are okay? Sure, I'll go home and change. This happened to my brother about 30 years ago, and he recently reminded me about it and said I could entertain strangers for possible imaginary points with it. He was working at a facility that made large waste separation machines for recycling. He worked in the electrical/controls department, which was open to the main factory floor but away from the assembly area. He never left the electrical bench as all he did was build control panels while others installed them. In 2 years he never went on the floor to work on the machines. There were areas with lots of welding going on, but even these were segregated to one side due to ventilation requirements. The factory floor was not climate controlled, and in the first 2 years shorts were okay as long as you didn't go in the welding area. Then someone got burned and the shorts rule got changed, but skirts were still okay. As you can guess, my brother and others wore some shorts after the change, mostly because as far as he knew the rule hadn't been enforced. Then the day came when the owner turned on the enforcement and decided to call my brother out on it first. The gist of a 30-year-old conversation from memory went something like this. Owner, you need to go home and change. Bro, I'm not the only one wearing shorts. Owner, I'll be sending everyone wearing them home to change. Bro, are the women on the floor wearing skirts going to have to change? Owner, no, skirts are okay. Bro, okie dokie, be back in an hour. Not long before this, our grandmother decided to get really into genealogy. Like go to libraries and courthouses and graveyards for pencil rubbings into. She had traced us back to the Scottish Highlands, and after finding this out, my brother did exactly what Kirk Lazarus later warned against doing, and went a little nuts, self-admittedly now, immersing himself in our newly discovered heritage. So my brother shows back up to work proudly wearing his walking kilt. The next week there was yet another rule added and enforced, and my brother was not very well liked among the female employees after that. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.